This episode of This Uncanny Earth is brought to you by Cooking Basically. Find your new favorite recipe today.
Hello.
There it is. Welcome to another beautiful episode on a Freedom Eve. This is Freedom Eve for everybody. Happy Freedom Eve, gentlemen. It is that time. If you hear explosions in the background, do not worry. It is not because we are being invaded and or attacked. We are just doing what Americans do every 4th of July, and that is blow stuff up. Somebody tonight, tomorrow, Saturday or Sunday will be missing appendages for the rest of their lives. So don't be one of those people. Be safe. And also, happy 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, as our good friend Scruffy would say. Happy 4th of July Eve or happy 4th of July Junior. I don't know what they do.
Does that make it Jeeve? Happy Jeeve?
Happy Jeeve, baby.
Yeah,
happy Jeeve.
Happy 4th, Jeeve.
Good seeing Scruffy. I love you, man. Welcome. Tonight, our very own intern, he will be taking us on a ride today with what we like to call the Manhattan Project. Oh, you don't think I got a book for that? I've got a book for that. I have a book for almost everything, save for maybe like 2 or 3 things, but we're working on that. So, gentlemen, welcome. Any news from the fronts? I know Spider's got a little show coming up that he's performing in the city of Canton. I am multi-streaming to Twitch, but
I messed up. That's my bad.
But our own intern, he screwed up, so
that's why he's not getting that promotion.
And that's why he's going back in the cage after the show's over. So we gotta, we got the kennel. We gotta, So that was we'll take care of that after. We let him experiment avant-garde with his one episode, and now he's done this. It's looking like he probably will have to go on somebody else's show. We'll have to go to sit him down to the minor leagues to
training videos.
Podcast.
Have to sit and watch training videos.
He'll have to go on Scruffy's stream and sit there and watch him play 76 and not say anything. So.
Have to do his own podcast.
Have to do his own. Yeah. So, anyways, gentlemen, Craig. Oh, we broke.
Oh no!
Oh no! They know his real name. No. So you do have a show coming up, correct? That you're working with some.
I did
people
have
on.
No, I don't know what the other one is. The special one that I mentioned in the chat. I don't know about that. Yeah. That's still details for that are still up in the air.
I didn't know if you had like some concrete dates, times set aside.
Not
for
yet.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'll be able to make that one or not. I probably should go, but at the same time, I don't know.
Okay.
But I'll leave that ambiguous. Ooh, that's how they say it in France.
Just making up words now.
That's how they say it in France because they hate
ambiguous.
us.
It's true. They do.
But I did have an open mic this past Saturday. Here in Canton, which was all right. I did like a 3-song greatest hits kind of thing, so that was kind of fun.
Nice.
I'll have video footage for anybody who wants to see it at some point. I'm just waiting on the host to get that cut together. I'm also not super enthusiastic tonight. I hope nobody minds because I tossed my back out getting my daughter's bike out of the shed so that she could ride her bike today. And it wasn't even lifting the bike that did it. It was reaching for the bike that did it. I reached for it. And there it went. Just
pull the muscle.
Oh, that's the old Sears war wound back there.
Thanks, Eddie Lampert.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
why
Eddie
that's
Lampert.
there. So I'm a little tonight. But
Okay.
we're doing our best. We're gonna have some fun. At least we're gonna try to. We've got Jack Daniels, so we're gonna have some
Oh,
fun.
granules of Jack Daniels.
Back to the basics.
Back to the basics, indeed. Excellent, excellent. Steven, you got anything coming up, going on? This man is about to be going to college. He's about to be a college boy. What's up, college boy?
I got my placement test next Wednesday. I'm gonna have to schedule that after the show.
Okay, good,
And
good. I'd love to see it.
Yep. And I actually wasn't joking. I did start my own podcast.
Nice.
More of an alchemical, esoteric type thing. So,
well,
gonna do some experiments over there and see how that goes.
okay. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad I
Thank
got to
you.
be that
Yep.
that father figure in your life to help guide you to alchemy. You know, my son's growing up, y'all. My son's growing up. I'm proud of you. I know you're gonna kill it. As for me, I have one more interview before I can reveal what I have been working on for the past 2 months. That interview will be with none other than this guy. Well, I don't know which one is, because over here, this is you. This is Spider, the finger that I'm pointing to right now.
I got my screen mirrored, so it's me on my screen.
So then it would be this one.
Yeah.
But we will be hanging out this Sunday. It's been a long time coming. We haven't hung out. We haven't hung out. I'm starting to sound like you now, and I'm not even drinking the granules of Jack Daniels.
You're in anticipation.
I am.
It's the alpha waves.
Yeah, it's whatever.
That's a throwback.
Very much a throwback.
That's a real thing. The
So,
gateway process.
anyways, I do want to share something that I thought was really cool over the past couple of days. So I was interviewing my professor that I had for business marketing, I believe, about what I'm going to be talking about with Spider. And we were taking a walk through my old university, and guess whose name is on a plaque in said university? That's right. This guy right here. Yeah, and I do have a picture of it. And yeah, my name is up there. I am basically immortalized in my college, which is fantastic, by the way. And just, God giving me more confirmation on moving away from situations and moving into situations and things like that. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna go, it's not old me anymore. We're dealing with the brand new me, a revamped.
New year, new me.
New me. Well, I mean, it's kind of a little. We got a little bigger this year. We're gonna keep getting bigger. So there it is. That's what's going on in the uncanny world between the three of us. But for now, real quick, for those that don't know, our good friend Alyssa Long, the genius behind Cooking Basically, is set to release two cookbooks. So you're not gonna want to miss that. And I've been poking and prodding her to do a cooking show online and then have us on there with her. I think we're going to make the trek out there relatively soon, I think. It's time to go meet our good friend, say goodbye to our other good friend, Todd David Anderson, all three of us together because we knew Todd and we love Todd. And it's getting to be close to that time of Todd's passing. So like to make our way up there and say hey to her and just kind of have some closure in that one. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the one, the only. He likes cheese on his bologna. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the intern. When are we getting our sound stuff so we can pipe in our artificial clapping and cheering? It can't be that hard, right? You just upload the sound file.
Yeah, I just have to download a sound file and find a good one that's copyright free. That's all. I can probably find one.
We could just clap.
There's your clip. There's your clip for this week.
There you go.
There's your clip.
There it is.
All right.
Us clapping for no reason.
All right. All right. You ready?
Boys is crazy.
Let's do it. Let's get down to it.
All right.
Get to it.
Before Hiroshima, before Nagasaki, before the world held its breath, there was a man who quoted Sanskrit and studied theoretical physics under the stars. He was the genius who split the world, and his name was J. Robert Oppenheimer. Today, we tell the story of the Manhattan Project, the secret city the stolen secrets, and the birth of a weapon that changed the fate of humanity. But more than that, we're asking the question, what happens when knowledge becomes too powerful to control? Tonight, we will discuss the origins of the genius, the bomb, and the fallout. So, starting with Oppenheimer, the philosopher physicist. He was born in 1904 to a wealthy Jewish family in New York. J. Robert Oppenheimer was surrounded by fine art and high culture. By the time he was a teenager, he could read in Greek, Latin, and French. He inhaled physics, philosophy, and literature with equal fervor. At Harvard, he raced through his degree in 3 years, but it was in Europe, first at Cambridge, then at Göttingen, that he encountered quantum mechanics and his own inner turmoil. Very similar to myself, I gotta say. I love quantum mechanics too. Thanks for that, Spider. He suffered from depression, isolation, and once even tried to poison his tutor, but his brilliance was undeniable. He studied under Max Born and befriended the giants of early quantum theory, Heisenberg, Dirac, and Pauli. He even learned Sanskrit just to read the Bhagavad Gita in its original form. And yet, that mind could grasp the behavior of subatomic particles, couldn't always grasp his own emotions. It's no surprise that such a man would be chosen to lead something like the Manhattan Project. But was it destiny or design? So let's stop here, and I'm going to ask you both, do you think someone with Oppenheimer's instability would be chosen to lead anything today, or would he be medicated and sidelined? Let's go ahead and start with you, Spider.
Well, I don't want to stir the pot,
I know
Uh-oh.
somebody that should be
anything.
medicated and sidelined.
but
Me.
there are quite a few people that we can name off the top of our heads in government today, from multiple parties and multiple
Get us in a lot of trouble.
places, that are probably pretty unstable and pretty unfit to be doing anything. So that's the sound of people coming home. Don't mind me.
Oh, it's not the FBI?
I'm not going to name any names, though, because, again, we don't take sides on political stuff on the show
Yeah.
here. But I am going to say right now, you can look at the who's who of who's doing things on both sides of everything up there, in our country at least, and there's a lot of not quite right people, not quite bright people, and not quite qualified people that still got the votes. And that's all I'm going to say about it. People can assume whatever they want from it, but that's the thing that happens. That if you want to look at it from a different angle, though, this is a quote that has always applied. Being a musician, there's always been a thought that the best musicians who put out the best music have been flawed somehow, that they've had some kind of mental something or other, that they've had problems in their lives, that there's been some dark part of them that is
Makes
what
them
fuels
great.
them to make good music.
Yeah.
And it's common enough that you can kind of see that for a certain level of genius, almost, you have to have almost a certain level of potential
Trauma.
insanity, just about. Like the line between genius and insanity is pretty thin sometimes, and a lot of people can go back and forth on that. So it doesn't really surprise me that somebody who might have developed some pretty incredible things that we needed at the time might also be not quite right, or at least struggling with a lot of personal things on the inside, regardless of what they're showing on the outside. I mean, that's a thing that we do every day too. I mean, we all kind of do that.
Yeah.
We all have to put on the face on the outside and try to push down that part that's just like not doing real well, or that's struggling or whatever, just because you have to coexist with people, you have to do things. And that's just being human.
Yep. And Rob, what do you think?
Parallel to what Spider was talking about, there's a little madness in genius.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a pure scientist yet, pure artist, pure musician that doesn't have a little madness. And I can tell you all somebody right now that has all the madness, but he's a fantastic producer. Not you. And that's Kanye West. Kanye West is that dude. I think Spider's a little crazy, but in terms of like far
relative,
ends
yeah.
off the boat,
Yeah,
Kanye West
there's
is
a bit
far end and off the boat.
separation there.
Yes. And I think that, if anybody's ever listened to his music, you can think he's a jerk all you want, but he can produce a track. He knows music. He knows how to hear music. He knows how to read music, stuff like that, which
808s and Heartbreak.
which a lot of people don't. And so I think, that to me stands out as one of the key people in our time that is just either A, the biggest troll the world's ever seen, which he very well could be. I mean, or B, he's mad. But like I said, I think there always has to be a tinge of madness sprinkled in for genius to flourish. And I don't know why that is necessarily, but it's something that has to go against the status quo, because as we'll discuss, Oppenheimer also held political beliefs that weren't very popular for the time period. So,
speaking of which, can we use the CO word on that one? Or should we censor that?
what, communism?
Yeah, that word.
Yes, we can say communism.
No, it's not like we're. The difference is if you're going on a rant about things, and if you're, because if you're one of those people going on, these socialists and these Republicans and these Democrats, whatever. If you frame it like that, YouTube's going to be kind of like, but we're just talking. We're just pointing out.
It's a historical fact. So, I mean, if they start censoring historical facts, that's akin to something else.
Yeah. So, personally, I think it depends on what he's researching. Like, if it was just some random person doing all this, I think they would be sidelined. But because of his knowledge, I think that's why he was allowed to continue doing all that, because he was so smart. All right, so next we're going to talk about war and the rise of the bomb. So in 1938, German scientists achieved nuclear fission, splitting the atom and unleashing immense energy. Across the ocean, Hungarian physicist Leo Szilard foresaw what this meant: a future where Himmler, I'm trying to censor a name, it's not Hitler. Can I just spell it? Does that work?
No, you can say Hitler. It's okay.
We're
we're not glorifying anything.
Right.
Okay.
We're just presenting historical facts, so we're fine. You're fine.
A future where Hitler could build the world's first atomic bomb. So Szilard turned to someone with weight, Albert Einstein. Together, they wrote the now famous letter to President Roosevelt, warning of an existential threat and urging the U.S. to begin atomic research. That letter sparked the formation of the Manhattan Engineer District in 1942. Einstein called it the greatest mistake of his life. He would never be allowed on the project, viewed it as a security risk, but the fuse was lit. And what's interesting is later on, we'll get to this in a minute, but I just wanted to go ahead and tease it a little bit. Later on, we're going to talk about Einstein and how he actually theorized that every time they split the atom to create this bomb, we could light the entire atmosphere itself on fire and just ignite the entire planet. But that was a possibility that they thought could happen, that it would ignite the atmosphere, and then that's all. We wouldn't be sitting here having this show right now. And then we still did it. That's what gets me.
Because you don't know. I mean, that's the thing about it. Like anything, it's all new technology, and it could be used for good things or bad things or whatever. You're trying to make a bomb, sure, but you also want to know what the energy output is. If you don't know what it does, the only way to find out is to test it, and it could be the end of life as we know it, or it could be just puff of smoke. So
it was a big risk. Mars. Yep, I can agree with that. And so now we're going to talk about actually building the bomb and the town to hide it.
Oh, good. I'm going to take notes so I can make one.
You haven't made yours yet?
No, I'm behind the times.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this episode.
See, I already have a book. I'm good. I have a book.
Yeah.
I have a book for that. I've told you I have a book for that.
General Leslie Groves was a bulldog of an engineer, tough, disciplined, and loyal. When tasked with finding a scientific director, he chose Oppenheimer. Despite his red flags, leftist sympathies, no administrative experience, and a fragile mental health history. But Groves saw something others didn't: charisma, intelligence, and vision. He handed Oppenheimer the reins to a secret city in the New Mexico desert, Los Alamos, Texas. The town didn't exist on any map. Over 6,000 people were relocated, all scientists. families, and militaries. Their mail was postmarked Santa Fe. No one knew what they were working on, not even many of the scientists. It was secrecy on a scale the U.S. had never seen. So I'd like to ask you guys, would you move to a mystery town and trust the government with your life and your families? You go first this time, Rob.
So here's the thing. Today we can all probably agree no.
Yeah,
But
definitely not.
back then, when you're dealing with Axis powers, you're dealing with countries that are unstable and unstable leadership. Not saying we haven't had unstable leadership, but Hitler was probably like one of the most unstable of that time.
Yeah.
Plus the Red Scare, the rise of communism, Russia, all that.
Psychological manipulation.
You're going to want to protect your country, right? I can understand this from that angle, and it's either you develop this weapon of mass destruction or your enemies do. And if your enemies do, they're going to use it against you. A Germany that didn't have anything to lose, because we're talking more towards the end of the war than its beginning, when time was moving a lot faster for everybody involved. So you have to make that weapon. You got to make it ASAP, because now Germany knows. Germany's like, yeah, we've been trying to do this, this, and this, as you've seen with some of the advanced technology that Germany had, the V2 rocket by Werner von Braun. But once you have that clock ticking, and it's either me and my family live or me and my family die. I got to go to the secret government town. So yeah, I would definitely go, especially if I had that kind of intelligence. Because here's the thing. If you don't go, the government might make you an
Get
accident.
rid of you.
They might make you an accident.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're saying, hey, do you want to? They're saying either you do or you disappear.
It's hard to say no to the government when they ask you with military force.
But I think not so much that. I think given where we would be at in the world at that point, yeah, I would go to the mystery town and work for the government. Today, probably not. But I know how the government is. So that's why for me today, it's a no, dog. It's going to be a no from me.
What about you, Spider?
Well, part of it is that the idea of patriotism was very different then than it is now. This was during the 30s and 40s. It was an entirely different frame of mind. It was entirely different to be loyal to your country, to be seen like we got to, work on our national interests. We have to protect ourselves. We have to do this, compared to all of the years that followed. Because after the 50s, you got into all the turbulence of the 60s, and then the 70s, and then you had the downturn of the 80s of people just being depressed about everything, and all the different. We'd started to get more. Because this was after Vietnam, we got more involved with stuff overseas, and people didn't see it as being successful anymore. They saw it as, what's the point? Why are we going over there? Why are we doing this? And the separation between the idea of us going to protect national interests and being a patriot for your country started to be different. And especially you get to now we're involved in so many things across the world that have nothing to do with us, that are pretty pointless. Like, these are other people's business that they've been arguing about for thousands of years. Let them fight it out and deal with it themselves.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with us anymore. But we got to have our fingers in every little thing because of economics, because of all these different things. And it was very different then. It was
Relationship.
It was a different landscape. And again, even then, the United States didn't get pulled into World War II until very much towards the end.
Yep.
It may have ended differently if the United States didn't jump in, but the United States resisted for a very long time before finally getting involved, and that was only because we got provoked directly. And if that wouldn't have happened, maybe we wouldn't have developed some of these weapons. Maybe the entire landscape of politics today would be different. Maybe we wouldn't be involved in all these little things across the world. You don't really know. It's a what if. But the feeling at the time that you had to stand up for your country was much stronger than it is now. And was also
sorry.
It was a bit different because you also got more, I believe, from the government. There were more subsidies. There were more, things. There was a better relationship at the time, as far as we know, between the common people and the government. There was a lot more social things going on and different things. And now it's hard to really trust any of that kind of stuff. But so at the time, if it was me back in that time and I was some kind of scientist or somebody who was like, hey, we need you to go to this place and bring your whole family here, and this is where you're going to live, the government's going to pay for everything. At the time, probably, because I might have that same mindset. But now, now you can stuff it.
I do want to say something here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say this to Spider directly. I'm going to say it to you, to your face.
Oh, no.
No, I think the one thing that you should mention is that while we wouldn't have been involved in those little, maybe not those little skirmishes, I think at that point we didn't have a choice. Like you get backed up against a wall where you have to say, okay, it's either us or them. There's no talking, there's no shaking hands. And if you have somebody say like Russia that would have gotten that, that would have made that nuke first, I think the world changes. I think the United States
Soviets
isn't
totally
as powerful.
Different idea.
Yeah. And I don't think we're as powerful. I think that something ends up happening to us, whether that be we get invaded or whether we are the recipient of said explosion. While I agree, today, stuff it, because, people have been fighting for thousands of years, that we're not going to jump in just like, hey, quit the fighting. That's not going to happen. Because there's ideologies, there's religious beliefs, there's racism on both sides with that. But back then, like I said, when your back is against a wall, you gotta start swinging. And so I think that's something, like I said, Spider, like mentioning that, like, because if you don't handle it, it's going to come to your door eventually. Eventually, those people that have been attacking this place, you're the biggest piece of the pie in the world at that point. We want a share of that pie, and we have the armaments to do so. So I think like Spider said, yeah, at that time, you're going to take care of me and my family. You're going to give us a place to stay. You're going to pay me. Yes. Now, shove it up your butt.
Yeah.
Shove it up your butt. 100% shove it up your butt. Somebody's gonna clip that. And it's just gonna be.
So I'm actually a little conflicted about it, because I'm like, on the one hand, I'm like you, I don't feel like I would want to do it, and it would be morally wrong. And by today's standards, I would be worried about my life on the one hand. And back then, like James said in the chat, it was a different time. And, people were a lot more patriotic. So I don't know how I would have felt personally back then as far as the patriotism aspect. But as far as the safety aspect alone, not counting morals or anything else, I think I would have trusted them to keep me safe, because like you guys said, this was a very important project for them, and I was a very smart person. Theoretically, if I had been Oppenheimer, I would have been a very smart person, and they would have been, they would have needed to keep me safe to keep me there, so I could work on the project. So next, we're going to talk about Trinity and the two bombs. The Manhattan Project focused on two bomb designs. The first was called Little Boy, a uranium-based gun-type bomb, and Fat Man, a plutonium bomb requiring a complex implosion trigger. Come on, go ahead, say it, Rob.
You look like a fat man in dire need of an ass bruising.
Nice.
It reminds me of the nuclear launcher from the Fallout games. Aren't those called Fat Man? Okay, but anyways.
Yes, the Fat Man launcher.
Yeah. So on July 16th, 1945, at the Alamogordo test site, yes, that's really the name, Alamogordo, the first atomic bomb was detonated. The light was blinding, the sand turned to glass, and a new era began as the fire alarms went off in the movie theater. I went to see the movie at the theater, and that's when the alarms went off. That part of the movie theater, and I'm like, what the heck?
If I would have owned that theater, I would have did that on purpose and did the air raid sirens, but I think that's illegal.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of happened. Anyways, Oppenheimer later said, quoting the Bhagavad Gita, sorry,
The Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
I have
Bhagavad
that.
Gita.
I have a book for
You
that.
can
Yeah.
you can
I
say it
remember
like
you
3
talked-
times, and it can come out different every time you say
Yes.
it. But you basically got the gist of it.
And you got to be careful. You might summon something. So just,
Okay,
just
yeah.
be careful.
Just go with it. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Some scientists cheered, others cried, some stood silent, watching history unravel. And now we're going to get into a little bit of a pause here, and we're going to discuss some of the survivor stories. So
Wait a minute. But before you continue, may
Yeah.
I ask a question of everyone?
Yes.
What would your reactions have been at
'Cause-
that completion moment? You say some cried, some cheered.
Yeah, I
What would
think
y'all? What would the two of you have done?
I probably think I would have just been in complete and utter shock and silence, like silent awe at the moment. Like, on the one hand, thinking about how big of a breakthrough this would be in science, and on the other hand, dreading what is going to happen now that we've figured out how to do this.
Okay. And yourself, Spider, what would you do?
If we're assuming that I have the same attitude as I do now, I would probably think it was awesome. At the same time, though, I probably wouldn't want to repeat it because I'm a guy who doesn't like fireworks, who doesn't like loud, bright stuff that happens. But I think seeing it at the time would have been very impressive and would have just been like I don't think I would have been like cheering for it, like, wow, now we can blow up everybody with this thing. This is great. But it was a sight to see. And seeing it for the first time and then hopefully maybe never seeing it again would be one of those moments that would sit in your head for a long time afterwards. So I think I'd feel pretty impressed by it.
Yeah.
I think it would be a very solemn occasion for me, the way I am, the person that I am. Because on one hand, like Spider said, I mean, the genius that it took to make something like that, to be able to create something that is on a whole nother level. You're talking about something that's going to change the direction of history. This isn't just something that's going to change a little thing or a minute thing. It's changing everything. But then realizing that this can basically kill millions of people in a blink of an eye.
Yep.
And they're going to develop worse. So
Mhm.
it would be a very solemn,
Not even mentioning the radiation.
quiet moment, like a moment of reflection, like we were backed into a corner and it was either us or them. So we had to do it. But what are the repercussions of what we have done? So more of a solemn, yeah, I wouldn't be like, yeah, we did it. Crack open the keggers. Let's get drunk. Dude, we did it. We could kill a bunch of people. Wow.
Yeah.
Atomic U State, dude, they're going all the way. No, nothing like that. Very much just like a very solemn, somber moment for me. Because whether you want to agree with it or not, those people were responsible for those lives that were lost.
Mhm.
You know, but if somebody else would have gotten the same thing and did that to somebody, like did that to us,
Yeah.
so it was all a matter of who gets who first, and we got them first. That's all it was.
All right, so I've got 5 stories here from survivors. So before we continue, I'm not a big fan of these, but I try to be fair. So if anyone needs a trigger warning, now's your chance. All right, time's up. So the first one is Bun Hashizume. I was only 14. I thought the sun had fallen at my feet. 1,000 rainbows exploded in my eyes. Later, I saw people walking with skin hanging from their bones like curtains. I was one of them. For years I couldn't speak of it, but now I speak so others never forget. Second one, Tsutomu Yamaguchi. I survived Hiroshima. I went home to Nagasaki. I survived again. Burned, blinded, my ears ringing. I lived, but every night I still see the light. I ask the world, why can't you learn from what I saw twice? Chieko Kiriaki. I stood near a window. There was a flash, silver, orange. I thought the sun had fallen. Glass exploded into my face. When I crawled out, My classmates were dead. The silence that followed was louder than the blast. Shigeaki Mori. I was thrown into the river. When I came out, I saw people walking while holding their own organs. A woman screamed for her mother, her chest ripped open. I later discovered that American POWs were in Hiroshima too. They died in secret. I made it my life's work to make their names known. Michiko Kodama. I was 7. I saw colors I couldn't name. Yellow, orange, silver. People's eyes were gone, skin peeling. I want every leader to know you can't win a nuclear war. The only victory is diplomacy. All right, you guys got anything to add to that?
I do. There is a fantastic movie. It's an old Japanese movie.
Godzilla. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's called Black Rain. It's about survivors of the atomic blast. It's an old black and white Japanese film. I highly recommend it. I've seen a few very and it's one of those somber movies where you have to see the repercussions of what doing that does to people. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think much like we teach the Holocaust in schools, we also need to be teaching 2 other things that are vastly important. Because to me, I don't think in the karmic sense, if we're going to go off karma or however you want to put it, what the Japanese were doing to the Chinese people, Unit 731,
Yeah.
it was almost like a rebalancing of all the lives that were taken in the worst way possible. When you have Hitler writing and saying, this isn't good, to Emperor Hirohito, it's like, whoa there, buddy. When this dude who is like the epitome of an evil human being is telling you, hey, chill, and we had a show on that. We had an episode, and I'm not going to go into it. But I think that, and I think the repercussions of the atomic bomb should be taught in school. These survivor stories deserve to be known because we are much like them. We didn't do nothing to anybody personally. We didn't invade anybody's country. We didn't attack anybody. We didn't start a war. We didn't end a war. We didn't do this, that, and the third. We're just human beings trying to survive under a government that is very war hungry, and Japan was the same way. The Japanese people were just trying to survive. You can't throw everybody under the bus, but like I said, I think that spiritually and karmically, however you want to believe that, it was somewhat to atone for all the horrific things that, Japan did during World War II that doesn't seem to get talked about enough, So for me, it would be those 3 things. I think those 3 things, should be taught in schools. In a way that teaches people, hey, this isn't right. This isn't something that's a good thing. So, and show all the graphic details. I think you have to. I think that's because people don't get it. You could say, yeah, they did this and this, but until you see it or until you see pictures of it or footage of it, it's a whole different monster. So, yeah, I think that these survivor stories are important. I think they get overlooked, to be quite frank. I think people go in on Oppenheimer, the bomb. They go in on Hitler. They go in on Hirohito, Japan, where it's at. But the aftermath, of an atomic bomb being dropped, radiation, you're killing animals, livestock, you're polluting the ground. You can't grow anything. You can't go there. You can't go just meandering on in to Hiroshima after a bomb hits it or Nagasaki after a bomb hits it.
The radiation literally destroys your very DNA, so you can't even have children anymore.
Yeah. And in cases of cancer rose because of that, because of radiation. So the after effects of that incident should also be taught right along with the incident of itself.
Spider, anything else to add?
As we're going to find out with our episode next week with nuclear disasters, it's radiation. The bomb itself is an awful, awful, awful thing. The amount of destruction just from the bomb itself is enough to be like, okay, wow, we don't want this to happen again. But the radiation is insidious. It seeps in. You can't. At the time, they they could detect it, but I don't think they were prepared for the levels of how much radiation was going to stick around after the fact. And today, I don't want to get too far into it because that's for next week's episode, but we're seeing that in places. We still have Chernobyl, which is still fully capable of killing people within minutes. Within minutes, not days, not weeks, minutes. And Fukushima, we're seeing the effects of that. And while they're having people move back to the town, trying to revive the town, you can walk
Dangerous.
around the town with the detector and step into a pocket that's like thousands of times higher than just where you were just down the street, and then you can walk out of it a second later, and then you have to wonder, did I just catch a semi-lethal dose of radiation for just half a second walking through here? And that's the part that we really did not understand. That is the part that the bomb is horrific. The stuff that happened when the explosion went off, horrific. But everything that happens after, we didn't understand it at the time, and it's a lesson. And all the stories that people tell, because people, again, they were getting sick long after. The radiation sickness can be minimal, or it can take a very long time. And you might not know just how much radiation extra that you've absorbed into your body until you start developing tumors, or your hair starts falling out, or things of that nature. And by that time, it's got you. By that time, it's too late. Like, there's really nothing you can do. It's like I said, it's insidious. And so it's important to know what happened after the fact, and what the people went through to be able to be prepared for such an event in the future, either from a same kind of weapon or even just from a power plant exploding. Because that's one of the things that they're trying to revive more of in this country. And while there's pros and cons to nuclear energy that you can look at, the disasters that could happen if another one of those went off, like we had 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, and here in Ohio we have the Perry nuclear plant. And when I was in Ashtabula, it was very close by, as relatively geography speaking. And even out here where I'm at now, where Rob is, like farther out than me in the opposite direction, if the Perry nuclear plant went up, we would get the effects of that.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the people who were right next door, but we would start feeling radiation at some point. Like, there'd be an increase all the way out here, because that's how it works. So it's very important that people look at the after effects of all these things to understand and perhaps build more. If you're going to use it for energy, then to try to build more safeguards to be as safe as you possibly can. And if you're thinking of using it as a weapon,
don't.
It's a bad idea. Because if you have it, somebody else can get it. And if they have it, somebody else can get it. And I mean, I'm not even going to talk about like stuff in the past from what we see from history. I'm talking about right now. You've got India and Pakistan, which Rob is going to talk about in another 2 weeks. This is a subject that's just, we're going to keep rehashing this same
all over
bit
the place
for the next few weeks.
Mutually assured destruction.
What they're talking about with Iran and everything like that. Like, to be honest, Iran could have legitimately just been like, no, we're just trying to use it for energy. But now that you keep taking it from us, now we do want to make a bomb out of it. You know, I mean, people get those attitudes. So, again, it is important to hear these stories and to know what could happen, because it's not pretty and it's not quick.
And I want to say something, because maybe people won't get it. Maybe they will when I say this. So there was a dark tourism. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but dark tourism is where you go to like the less safe places of the world as a tourist. And they did an episode on Fukushima, and they take people out to Fukushima, and they said, don't touch anything. There's a thin layer of dust that sits on top of everything. And it's so radioactive that breathing it in or touching it can kill you.
Instantly.
Kill you. Not instantly, but like within a certain time frame. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they say, don't touch a single thing. because that dust just sits right on top of countertops, tables, cars, you name it. And it just sits and it sits, and there's not a great way to clean it off because we have to understand half-life. So before the place is livable again, it has to have so many years. Well, that in years. We're not talking like the radiation dissipates in a matter of like a day or two.
Hundreds of years.
We're talking it's not safe to live there until maybe your great grandkids. Now, I think Hiroshima and Nagasaki are livable, in obviously in this day and age. But with the powered weapons that we have created, hydrogen bombs, which are far more powerful than the atomic bombs, it's not a good idea. Like Spider said, if you're thinking of using it as a weapon, please don't be that person, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. People get, some of these madmen get back against the wall and push a button, and next thing you know, boom, there it is.
Not to rehash the same thing like 6 weeks in a row, but if anybody wants to have a fictionalized account of the absolute worst that could happen in the effect of nuclear war, there's an incredibly depressing book.
Not say it.
It's good, but it's an incredibly depressing book.
There's a movie too. Gregory Peck's in it.
Well.
Yeah, Gregory Peck's in it.
Excellent, legendary. But it's pretty sobering. If you, and yes, it's fiction, but is it really?
Right.
So, on the beach, have a strong fortitude going into it, because it's not for the faint of heart. It's not gore, it's not monsters, it's not zombies, it's not anything like that. It's just the reality of everything completely being over.
Just have something fun to do when you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, have something fun to do. You take breaks
when you read it. It's not
a long book, but it's a heavy book. It's a very heavy tale. A cautionary tale. Anyways, continue.
All right. So next we're going to talk about the espionage in Eden while they were working on the project. Despite intense secrecy, the Soviets infiltrated Los Alamos. Klaus Fuchs, it's Fuchs, so I'm pronouncing it that way intentionally, passed detailed bomb designs. Theodore Hall leaked plutonium data. David Greenglass handed secrets to the Rosenbergs. Their motivations varied. Some feared U.S. dominations. Others believed global balance was necessary. Their actions helped the Soviet Union detonate its first bomb by 1949, years earlier than predicted. Were they traitors, or did they prevent a U.S. monopoly on apocalypse? What do you think, Rob? It's a tricky situation, isn't it?
The issue is once Pandora's box has been opened,
it's hard to close it.
It's hard to close it again. It's damn near impossible to close it again. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. For me, that's a tough question.
Spider?
It's one of those things where we know how science is. Yeah. And we know once one person has a scientific breakthrough, it is only a matter of time
until they militarize
before other people get it. Before it's not just one place. You can keep things secret for only so long, even before the age of the internet. And then I know there's probably people screaming at me like, "What about Area 51? Hey!" But I mean, realistically, there are no secrets forever unless time buries it. And the thing about nuclear weapons is that, hypothetically, if we manage to keep a hold of it and keep it away from everybody else, it would not take too long before a president at some point would come along and decide, I'm going to use this as a bargaining chip. And if these countries don't want to do this trade agreement, well, hey, I got bigger guns than you. I got this thing. You don't know what I'll do to you. And if you do that, often enough, you're eventually going to come across somebody who feels like they're the bigger fish in the pond and you can't push them around. I'd like to see you try. Come on, go ahead. And then you either have to back down, which is not something, unfortunately, that the United States does, or you have to show them why they shouldn't have messed with you, and you have to back up your threat. And then you've got another dropping of the bomb. And then, then it's out. And then people are going to be gunning to get that more than ever, because now you've not just dropped it once, you've dropped it twice. And the second time was not because you were being threatened or because you were in war with somebody, it's because you wanted to get your way. And that makes the situation a lot worse. Right now, we're all at a standstill.
I do want to say, before you continue, or it goes the other way, and the president opens up negotiations in trade favors and says, hey, you know what? I see your country is being threatened. Let's use Israel as a example. Okay, we're going to teach you how to create this so that you can defend yourself when that time comes, but we want access to your seaports, or we want access to your transportation routes. BlackRock comes to mind when buying the what was it, the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal? They bought one or the other. So here is a multinational corporation that now owns trade routes. So the United States goes in with a higher bargaining chip. So now, like Spider said, somebody else has it. And then it's only a matter of time before sympathizers to other causes that are involved in government, because we can never take the espionage route out of government. Once they have it, then other countries have it. So it, like Spider said, it's either A, you show you're the big dog of the pack, drop it. Or like I said, B, you trade for it. Because there's power in transportation routes. There's power in seaports. Because not only can you bring trade back and forth, you can bring weapons into those seaports. So now your enemies are doing a lot of yapping. Okay, I can hit you from an undisclosed location in this country or in another country that they're allies with, because we have bought and paid for ports. So that's what I think of that, because I wanted to analyze what Spider said. But anyway, Spider, didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to add that as a caveat.
That leads into what the other option is going to be, is because once it gets out and everybody has it, you get to the point where we're at today, where so many nations have it and everybody's just kind of hovering. It's like, oh, you won't because I will. Okay,
Right.
but you won't because I will. And then you have India and Pakistan who's like, we'll do it.
We'll
totally do it.
We'll do it right now.
We'll do it right now.
Just push it.
Look like you're going to touch it. We're going to do it.
Well, they're caressing the button with their finger.
Somebody's got a finger on it all the time, but that's how the world is right now. It's that
Yep.
everybody's kind of, but nobody really wants to, except for them. They want to because they hate each other.
They hate each other.
But nobody
They
else
literally hate each other.
Nobody else on the globe actually wants to have to push the button, because everybody, for everybody who talks like about Russia, about how they're the big enemy and they don't care about anybody else, they still want to survive.
Yes.
They don't want to get killed off.
Retaliatory.
In war.
Yes.
But,
even North Korea, who is the probably craziest of the bunch, while I think they would be one of the first ones to push it, they don't want to lose their country, because that's the one thing people don't understand about all this. They're like, oh, so-and-so is a megalomaniac and he's going to destroy everything. No, because they lose power. The minute they push that button, the minute they lose power. Because one, if it doesn't turn out like they thought and they get shot down, well, now the people are pissed because you didn't care about us. You were ready to sacrifice us just to prove a point. So now we have an issue. And number two, you just probably got all of your people absolutely wiped off the face of the known world. So, and then the ramifications past that, if the missile shot down between courts and world rulings, changes the landscape. What does that do? That messes up money, because there's no trade anymore. There's no businesses moving, because once that is dropped, let's say fictitiously it's dropped, right? The Dow, the NASDAQ, These high-profile corporations are going to lose millions, if not billions, of dollars because of this. And if you don't think they have their hand in every country and every ruler on every country, you're out of your mind. You think those Saudis want their their oil fields going up in nuclear fire? So I don't think some of you guys understand. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they're rich. But a Saudi oil prince, stupid money. We're talking they go to supercar lots that sell supercars, Koenigseggs, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and buy multiple cars like it is nothing.
And
like
still have money.
And still
And still have
just
money.
and still have money to go back tomorrow and do it all over again. So if you don't think that their interests move and motivate government officials, you're higher than 10 kites on a Sunday in a windstorm. So, and like I said, that's all right, James, you have a good night, sir. Thank you. We have been, but this is a good conversation. Based off business alone, nobody's trying to push that button. Nobody's trying to push that button. Nobody.
And that's why if somebody does push it, everybody else is going to be like, well, we're screwed now, and everybody else is going to push it.
Everybody.
Yep.
So that's why nobody
how it
wants
works
to
in
be the
Fallout.
one person to do it. Nobody wants to be the person to set off the chain, because anybody who lives after that is going to know, well, that's where it started.
Yeah.
They're the people that screwed everybody else. Now we have this dark ages of the entire planet. We'll never get back to where we've been because radiation is everywhere. It's because of those people in Guatemala. It's because of those people in the United States. It's because of Russia. It's because of North Korea. It's because of wherever wherever launched it.
Yeah.
They're now that's it. You ruined it for everybody.
Yes.
And that's why you have so many things going on in so many places, and everything's so connected, because nobody wants to be that guy.
The only thing that I could see happening, and not to derail you, Stephen.
Oh, you're good.
Is if they find a way to miniaturize this process, which I believe they have been working on, because why not? Let's do that. That's genius. And then it becomes different, because once it's detonated, it's not dropped. It's detonated. Who did it? Now it's a whole different political landscape. So anyway, sorry, Stephen, I didn't mean to derail your conversation, but this is
you actually started a new one, because now I'm thinking they could actually do that at the CERN particle collider. They might be able to figure something like that out.
Oh, don't put that out there. See, you're the one they're going to blame when it all goes to shit. Pardon my language. You're the one. They're going to it started with Stephen.
Because I gave him an idea?
Yep, because you put it out there in the ether.
All right. Well, we're getting near the end of the show, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to close it out. So for the Interns Oddities this weekend, I will be talking about Einstein, Oppenheimer, and the moral collapse of science, as well as how scientists reacted to the moral collapse, as well as the aftermath and betrayal, and some modern physicist interviews with what they think about all this as well. So to end this out tonight, Manhattan Project split the atom and split the consciousness of a generation. We still live in its shadow. The scientists saw it, the survivors lived it, and the next generation, us, must choose what to do with the legacy. So, final question. We'll start with you this time, Spider. Would you have joined the Manhattan Project knowing what we know now?
Having foreknowledge is a bit different. And that's the tricky part about anything. It's one thing to be able to talk in hindsight and to have this lofty position, like, of course not, I wouldn't do it. But at the same time, what were the options of the future? If we were absolutely sure that everything was going to develop the way it did, having the bombs dropped on Japan changed the trajectory of how Japan functioned as a country. And now Japan is economically not necessarily a powerhouse, but they've changed how the rest of us in other countries do different things. They change how we drive. They change how we game. They change how our appliances are used. They, without Japan developing some of these technologies that weren't for warfare, that were instead for the home, for comfort, or for fun, or for entertainment, then who knows what direction they would have gone. They might not be anywhere near the cultural center that they are now. Art would be different. Entertainment would be different. There's so much influenced from what Japan has done since then, because they didn't have much choice. They had to be demilitarized for a certain amount of time. It's only been actually relatively recently that they've been allowed to have a standing military anymore. Like,
What, the
it's
last
not
few
been
years?
it's not been very long. I mean, it's not been like just 2
I'll look
years,
it up
but
real
it's been
quick.
they went for quite a long time without having
Yeah.
any sort of standing military, because they weren't allowed to, and because they couldn't afford it anymore. So they turned to Japanese vehicles. They turned to Japanese appliances. They turned to cuisine. They turned to entertainment. Like, now we have anime. Now we have all these different things. Would you have gotten all of that without the bomb? And that's not a proponent to say that, yes, it's a good thing we dropped the bomb. It's just the future would look very different. And they would not have stopped going after China, which is another thing. Would China have grown into what it is today, where it's a constant thing to keep your eye out of? Or would it be more, would they have followed more Japanese ideals? But then if Japan had continued being more of a martial sort of country and imposed that on China, then China would have gotten militarized far sooner. And then you have this massive Asian conglomerate that's as powerful as Russia sooner than it would have been. And then you're dealing with an entirely new superpower. So,
Looks like it
as
was
to the
2015.
yeah, it wasn't that long
That's
ago in the scheme of
relatively,
things.
considering
Um,
history, that's 10 years.
So, back to the original question, would I still be in favor of the project? Probably, but not necessarily for its stated purpose, but because we still needed to study this new technology, because somebody was going to study it and somebody was going to figure it out. And if we don't get on board and figure it out and learn it ourselves, we're going to be the ones that get targeted by it, and we're not going to understand what's going wrong.
That's exactly how I feel too.
So, yeah. But again, it's all what about, it's all what ifs, it's all hypotheticals, and we can
Talk about those
wonder about
forever.
it. Yeah, we can wonder about it for as long as we want, and it might not change what the future became, because the future is going to be what it is, whether you try to fix it or not. That's just how things are. So, sure, I would probably still, if I was a person who would ask to be involved, I would probably still be involved. My answer would probably be the same. The reasoning might be different, but the answer would be the same, because it had to be done.
Rob, what about you?
100% yes. That's not even a, even with that knowledge, that foreknowledge of knowing, I'm still going all the way, for the sole reason, like Spider said, if you don't, somebody else will.
Yep.
And that somebody else might not have mankind's best interests in mind. You know, back then, technology wasn't what it is today. Business wasn't what it is today. So back then, because you didn't know about the internet, computers to that level, to that extent, you don't care much about if somebody's other country gets destroyed. You're not relying on them for anything. A lot of stuff was made in-house. And the trajectory of our history would have changed dramatically had somebody else obtained that knowledge before us. To think that, you know, and I see America gets a lot of hate for dropping the bomb. People like to say, I wouldn't have done it. Well, you probably wouldn't be here then. You wouldn't have the life you have had that not happened. Do I think it's a horrible, horrible thing? Yes. We can't sit here and talk amongst each other and not say that it was a horrible thing. but it had to be done. And people can argue, this, that, and the third. A lot of people will say, well, it had to be done because it would have cost more lives to send troops in to try to take Japan. Makes sense. That's their country. Japan once said the only reason they never tried to invade mainland United States is because there would be a gun behind every blade of grass. And they're right. So it's like, what do we send all these men in here and they keep dying and dying and dying? Look at the United States and Vietnam. Do we send these people into this other country? And listen, I don't care who you are. Any of these other goofball countries ever tried to invade us, it's a wrap for you. Once you get to the Appalachian Mountains, those people, oh man, you'll be lucky if they don't try to do things to you that are, how can I put this? Assaultive by nature. So, hey, do that if you want to. But yes, I'm 100% joining in on that. If not for nothing else, then to see history in action.
Yeah.
With action missiles.
I think I would join, but I wouldn't be happy about it. And and I think, like Oppenheimer, I think I would join just to see the scientific progression. But at the same time, if you actually study Oppenheimer, he never intended it to be a weapon in the first place. Like everyone always says, during the Cold War, they say that the bomb was designed to be, hey, this is just my defense. I don't want to use this. Like you said a minute ago, nobody wants to actually use it. And it's just meant to as a nuclear deterrent. And I think that's what Oppenheimer intended it for. And I don't think that he ever actually wanted it to be used.
That would make sense, right?
Yep.
If you do it, but you needed a show.
Yeah.
Because like we said, you want to push me, okay. You either back that threat up, but we have to remember they attacked Pearl Harbor, and they did it in such a way that you can't reason with people like this. You can't reason with a nation that at that time thought they were the supreme race. So people don't understand the racism involved with Japan.
To this day.
They believe that they were the top tier of everything. And it's a homogenous society. So, top tier. If they think they are top tier, right? They can justify Unit 731 actions. They can justify taking their plane and hitting a battleship, a United States battleship, with no regard for their life. In wartime, the goal is not to die, right? That's the one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to die. When you have people that aren't afraid to die and that will sacrifice their lives for a nation, the best way to show, hey, okay, you want to play that game? We can play that game better than you can. Boop. Boom. Next thing you know, Japan's like, they just dropped the sun on us.
Yep.
They just dropped the sun on us. We can't do anything. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the scientific technology. We don't have the ability. So we need to rethink things super quick because our country is about to no longer exist.
Yep.
So we can either keep doing this or we can surrender. We surrender. Because what do? Because it wasn't mutually assured destruction back then. If we pushed the button, they couldn't push the button. When you can't push the button back, kind of changed the landscape of everything. But yes, knowing everything that happened, I would still be 100% on board. Because once again, it's either us or them.
Yep. All right. And that's all I got. If you want to go ahead and close this out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of This Uncanny Earth in the books. We hope you enjoyed Steven's take. I talked a lot tonight. I apologize for that, but this is this is one of those for me, much like Zoroastrianism and much like Spider and Sumerians. It's I could go on for hours just talking about this, and we would have led further into the RBMK reactor. We're not gonna do that.
Neutron
Hope you guys
bombs.
had a good night. Right. Hope you guys had a good night. You guys were awesome. Great conversation as always, fellas. Be sure to catch the Interns Oddities this Saturday, right? You still uploading these things on Saturday? Oh, you're very welcome, Scruffy. We love you. If you have not gone out and seen Scruffy, he is a big internet celebrity. He works hard for the money, so hard for the money, so you better treat him right. You can find him over at twitch.tv/Scruffy23. I believe that is correct. If not, you can put the link in the box there. Usually we give him shout outs. But we thank Scruffy, we thank James and everybody else that will listen after. We hope you enjoyed this episode of This Uncanny Earth. Next week, our very own Spider, he's going to be talking about nuclear disaster. And I think he feels like one after pulling that bike out of the shed.
Ugh, sure do.
Also, in a little bit of time here, I will be joining Spider, and we are going to be playing some Dead Space 3 together on his stream. So, and
nice.
I cannot wait. I am excited as can be. So join us over there. That is twitch.tv /DMGRMN.
DMGRGN.
It changes every time.
DMGRGN. DMGRGN. Hey.
Demogorgon
Hey.
without any vowels.
Yes, I thought his name was Gregory or something at first. I don't know.
No, I had trouble with it at first too. Then I saw I didn't have any vowels, and now I'm like, okay, I get it now.
Somebody once put Greg on his coffee. Somebody once put Greg on his Starbucks order.
Somebody's dad once called me Greg for like his 12 years.
And then me being me, he would say Craig, right? I'm like, no, it's Greg. Because I am a troll too.
Better
Anyways,
troll than
guys.
a goblin.
Yeah, I'm rather be a troll than a goblin. At least I own a bridge that I can charge people to go over. So there that is. Still making money. And I don't charge $13,000 for banners. Not the point of the conversation, gentlemen. It was a great time.
I broke that rule already.
I had a great one. I had a great time. And then the week after our good buddy Spider does his, I will be doing mine on India and Pakistan, which I'm excited about because I've never learned much about their conflict. So to be able to sit down and pour over why they don't like each other, I'm super hyped for that episode. I'm super hyped. And it's something we haven't, this line of shows is something we haven't divulged in. Usually it's more like there's a werewolf in the tundra in Russia, but I like expanding our consciousnesses into more of a scientific realm too. I think it's good for the show. I think it's good for us. So I appreciate the conversation tonight, gentlemen. If you all would like to send in questions, comments, concerns, you can email us at thisuncanniearth@gmail.com. And also, if you want to see a cool website, I've seen the website. It's pretty cool. Head on over to ltatm.net. Let's talk about the madness. There's forums. There's fun. You might even get a virtual high five. And if you would like to check out this show on YouTube, you can head on over to www.youtube.com/@thisuncannieearth. All this is in the scroller down there, but in case you're listening on audio only. And finally, if you want to catch me doing my shenanigans and gaming and fun, you can head over to twitch.tv/uncannyalchemist. It's fun. Hang out. We do the stupidest things. We have challenges. I do push-ups. I get swole. And finally, if you want to watch Steven keep from yawning, you can head on over to his Twitch, twitch.tv/deadpoolhead888. Is that right? That one's right.
Yeah.
DMGRGN.
DMGRGN.
That's what I said. DMGRGN.
Damage Reagan. Just damage him. He just needs the damage. Mr. Reagan. He just needs
Mr.
the
Reagan. Ray Gun. You get what I'm saying? Hey, forget about it. Anyways, it's time to go. People are already leaving. We're hanging out at the theater. They're waiting for that secret ending. Why be boring when you yahoos can be uncanny? We will see all of you beautiful, wonderful people next week. And until then, be uncanny. Peace.